Let's take a look at a video wherein it highlights the importance of understanding different cultures. It is set in an environment and airlines wherein you have international passengers coming in and out of the airport. So what is typically involved in a daily or day-to-day operations? Let's take a look at it.
It's a big world, full of difference and diversity. How you see others is influenced by your own cultural perspective, and how others see you is influenced by their cultural perspective. What happens when you speak? Do people from other cultures understand you in the way you intended? And what happens with different cultures in the workplace? How rigid or flexible is their approach to rules? Is formal or informal behaviour expected? And how do different cultures approach timekeeping? In today's global business environment, it is essential to learn how to navigate across different cultural landscapes. You need a good set of tools to do this. You need an understanding of how different cultures trade and do business, an insight into how different cultures communicate, and a clear idea of how different cultures manage people. To be a savvy global traveller, you need to be willing to undertake the journey of understanding other cultures. Develop cultural intelligence so you can communicate confidently across cultures.
One of the basic models in international HRM, trying to understand the different cultures involved, the different dimensions of culture and how does it impact your organizational behavior and HR practices, is a Hofstede model. Now, Hofstede defined 5 different dimensions on how culture impacts actual workplace behavior, and HR practices needs to be tuned to this based on these dimensions. Now, the research work was carried out in 66 different offices, that is international offices of IBM. Now, they defined on the following lines. Power distance is one of the first categories, wherein what is the typical understanding of power distance? How do people identify hierarchies? Is it centralized or is it decentralized? Are people comfortable with different hierarchical levels? Do they follow command and control styles or is it individual styles? So how comfortable are people with power distance? That was the first dimension. Second, uncertainty avoidance. Are people sticking to secure and safe environment? Are people ready to take risks? So how far or how high or low is uncertainty avoidance? Now, individualism and collectivism. Are individual values identified or is it collectivism? How much does the society or the culture attach importance to individual efforts, and as groups, are individuals important or collective units important? Are the social roles being defined in terms of masculinity and femininity? Are these clearly defined in the context of roles in the society? Now, what is the long-term orientation? Are efforts being put in terms of long-term orientation or are they in terms of short-term orientation? Hofstede defined dimensions and the cultural differences on these 5 dimensions. Moving on, von Staumpiener's model explains again cultural differences and the impact on these particular dimensions. So universalism versus particularism. Now, do the individuals in the particular culture, do they go for the same rules? Are they applied in all the situations or are they different according to circumstances? Now, individualism versus collectivism. Now, is it more important to be able to act as an individual or to be a team member? What is the culture's direction in this particular dimension? Neutral or effective? Is it better to show emotions or to keep them hidden? Are the decisions taken on an emotional basis where it is effective, or the decisions taken in a rational and in a logical way, which means neutral? So is it good to show emotions or is it bad to show emotions? Achievement versus ascription. Now, whether the society gives a particular individual value and status based on his individual achievements or because of his background and connection to a particular group, which case is ascription. Achievement is on the individual and ascription is what is given because of his pedigree, his background. Or specific and diffuse is the next angle. Is it important to compartmentalize or to generalize? Is everything linked or nothing linked? So when it comes to sequential and synchronic, is the future derived from the past, or future is something which is done on its own and it starts from zero base? Do the actions of the past affect the future? So it's a sequential, and synchronic is another dimension. Inner directed and outer directed, to what extent is the destiny or actual work effort directed by the individual? Is it shaped by the individual in the case of inner directed, or is it shaped by the external environment and destiny, and who controls it falls under outer directed? These are the dimensions, pretty interesting dimensions defined by Trompina in this model. Now, how to manage cultural differences? Cultural sensitivity is something wherein individuals in a particular group or a team identify what are the pain points, what are the areas of friction, and trying to sensitize them to the issues involved in managing cross-cultural issues. Cultural intentionality is something wherein you undertake efforts to bring out the desired behaviors, the attitudes and the thoughts to carry on a successful team environment and execute the job involved. So you need to build teams according to the different cultures and what are the sensitivities involved. You need to have an effective strategy. And when it comes to communication, the language that you use in everyday work practice, to minimize any kind of friction out of the use of a particular language, communication pattern and styles. How do you communicate? Certain cultures are open, certain cultures are closed. How do you strike a balance in your communication style? Inclusive language without any bias which affects any particular section of the people or any particular people's region. You have to have an inclusive language. Now, integrating and balancing diverse contributions. Now, are individuals more open when bringing out their issues? How do they bring out their issues to the management? So we need to take a look at how it is being communicated and interaction styles. Now, how best it is to manage a style which maximizes your output from this multicultural and multi-ethnic teams. Let's take a look at a video wherein cultural sensitivity would have definitely helped this gentleman to overcome this potentially awkward situation.
好容易嘅啫，好簡單啊，就咁做不就？大家飲杯，飲杯，飲杯，得啦！大家食啊！好嘢啊！好食啊！湯飲埋先。
The English believe it's a slur on your host's food if you don't clear your plate. Whereas the Chinese feel you're questioning their generosity if you do. At HSBC, we never underestimate the importance of local knowledge. Which is why we have local banks staffed by local people in over 80 countries across the globe. HSBC, the world's local bank.
To have a better understanding of international HRM, your roles and relationships and the expectations from those roles and relationships should be clearly defined. The roles and styles of leadership, how leaders should act and how leaders should behave and motivate their teams in different contexts, in different scenarios wherein their subordinates are from different countries. So what are the roles and styles of leadership which will suit and which will bring out the best? What are the appropriate degrees of formality, because formality differs from one culture to other. Some of the most westernized and industrialized countries, the degree of formality is a little less when we compare to some of the Far East nations. So what is the appropriate degree of formality to manage your teams effectively, and what is the role of women and younger people in business context? So these are factors which you need to identify and have a clear understanding and strategies so that you have the best teams working for you and bringing the best output. Thank you.